It's time for Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
What you were about to hear is so much better than what you were about to hear. That didn't sound good for me, frankly. This is Wretched Radio. Scott Klusendorf joining us impromptu in studio because you were just with us to be a part of Road Trip to True Season 2. Do you know we haven't even released Season 1 yet? But and we're already doing Season 2.
Is that faith or presumption?
We're going to find out.
You're going to find
very soon, as soon as we do release, which we will be releasing Season 1 very soon. But you absolutely killed it recording 2 episodes on the life issue. And when you and I were chatting between takes, there's a subject that we share a little bit of a mutual, what's the right word here? A disdain for, a rewriting of how evangelicals should go about the business of voting regarding the life issue.
Right.
Am I smoking the crack? Am I the only one who's noticing that there is a concerted effort for us to reconsider how we vote on the life issue?
No, you're not smoking crack. You're seeing it exactly as it's going down. And it's disturbing. You're right, Todd, because, I mean, look at this. Our intuitions say you vote for a pro-life party, you vote to protect legally unborn humans, and the terms of the debate have now been changed. Now what we're being told is, well, don't worry about the legal realities. We should work to reduce abortion.
That's right.
That's not the goal of the pro-life movement, though we want that to happen. Our ultimate goal is to save children by legally protecting them, and what's happening is the terms are being changed right under our noses.
Okay, now, I'll tell you what. I will kind of try to represent the voice that I've been hearing a lot inside of conservative evangelical circles. So you would say that it is better for it to be illegal, even though it's currently we could have fewer abortions if we had some other policies in place. Why not vote for a guy who can implement policies that will actually bring down the abortion rate through better welfare programs, perhaps through better education, a more prophylactics being distributed? What's the problem with that?
Well, consider this. A society that made spousal abuse rare, in other words, they reduced it, but still left it legal for you to beat your spouse, would be a deeply immoral society. And this is where people get it wrong. We're not out merely to reduce numbers. There's a principle here of legal protection for unborn children. And that's what we're about as a pro-life movement.
Can I just tell you, I'm ashamed of myself now for, well, now multiple reasons.
Really?
But I was just reading an article about the state of one of the Northeast states. There's a shocker for you. And they are making the distribution of prophylactics mandated for schools. So you've got to distribute them. And it was actually a Republican who forwarded the legislation because he said, what we will do is we will reduce abortions. All right. Something's not right with his thinking. I came up with some illustrations. What's wrong with the let's pass out condoms to kids so that we can reduce abortions as far as good Christian thinking?
Well, it's bad on a principled level because we're basically handing people a permission slip to do what's immoral, what's wrong. But it's also not proven anywhere in the peer-reviewed literature that if you pass out a lot of condoms, you'll reduce abortion. In fact, William Salatan, who's a New York Times journalist, has written an excellent piece, and he's no friend of pro-lifers. He said the problem with women getting pregnant when they don't want to be is not because there's not enough birth control, not because we've restricted it somehow. He calls it a loss of personal responsibility. People in the heat of the moment don't want to use birth control. They don't want to take it. And so what they end up doing is getting pregnant, and he calls that laziness. So it's not a matter of conservatives squelching condoms somewhere. It's a matter of people not being personally responsible, says a guy who's not even on our side.
Yeah, the illustrations that I came up with, I thought about up in Canada where they pass out needles so that the heroin addicts don't get a dirty needle. And I'm like, well, wouldn't it just be better to do away with the bad thing rather than kind of provide? See, it overlooks the moral issue.
Yes, it does.
And my illustrations, the ones that I came up with, they tended to limp quite a bit. But nevertheless, it's to jump past the moral issue of right and wrong. So
it is.
I just thought, oh, that's kind of a bummer that we are trying to deal with a bad consequence, unintended pregnancy. Not that babies are bad, but the unintended pregnancies by somehow making it okay and safer for you to do the act that is morally wrong unless you're prepared for the consequence.
That's right. And there's another layer to this, Todd. The law functions as a moral teacher. When legally we make something happen, we send a message that it's okay. It's not neutral. Laws are not neutral. They send a moral message. And so we are feeding the immoral behavior. And of course, as Christians, we care deeply about people's souls, not just their condom levels.
Yeah, okay. We're going to teach you how to beat your kid so it doesn't leave a mark.
There you go.
How did I do? Better illustration?
That's a good one.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Scott Klusendorf in studio from prolifetraining.com, prolifetraining.com. If you would like to be equipped to defend the life view, you won't do better than Scott Klusendorf. You're also on Life is Best, the season that series we did, was that 80 years ago?
80 years ago, 5, but, feels like 80.
It certainly does, but I still think that's one of the best pro-life apologetic resources.
Phenomenal, and we sell a lot of them.
Yeah, you can find that too at wretched.org. Scott, let me press back still on your traditional pro-life voting view. The people who claim to be pro-life, they really haven't done much to eliminate abortion anyway. So go ahead and pull the lever for the person with the D next to their name.
Yeah, usually the refined version of that argument is this. Abortion rates have actually gone down under candidates who support abortion and gone up under ones that oppose it.
Is that accurate?
No, it's not at all.
No, it's been coming down since Roe v. Wade, since 1980,
well,
really, hasn't it?
They always leave out the presidency of Jimmy Carter, where rates went up 33% under Democrat Jimmy Carter. And then they say, well, Republicans, it doesn't drop as much. Well, actually, Reagan slowed the growth of the abortion rate from 33% going up to only going up 1% during his 8 terms. Then people come along and say, well, Bill Clinton really did the job. Boy, and you look at the 90s, the rates just went through the floor. What they forget to tell you is in 1998, while Clinton was president, the CDC no longer required states to report their abortion data. Now it's all voluntary. California, Maryland, District of Columbia, no longer reporting. Where do a huge number of abortions come from? California, maybe? Well, that's not Clinton's doing. That's the fact California no longer has to report its data. This is silliness, and yet people buy into it. Do we really think rape would go up or go down if we legalized it?
Yeah, every time we deal with this issue, because one of my observations with all of the new reasoning about voting for a pro-choice candidate is it's overlooking what abortion actually is.
Yeah.
That we've forgotten that it is the intentional taking of an innocent human being. And we treat it like, well, there's other stuff too, but you replace abortion with rape every time, and it shocks people.
Or slavery, or spousal abuse.
All of those are, it's like, oh, suddenly it's really clear. It's because we've forgotten what abortion is. And I think that is another issue in the evangelical community. There have been a lot of conversations about political things for the last 4, 6, 8 years, but it has not been as much about the life issue as it used to be.
No, it's not. In fact, what's really bad is they lump abortion in with other issues and create this moral stew of equivalency when there is no moral equivalency. There is a world of difference between intentionally dismembering an innocent human being, which I call an intrinsic evil, and a contingent evil like war that may or may not be justified depending on the context and circumstances. And what people are doing is putting these contingent evils in with intrinsic ones or absolute ones and saying, well, who's the real pro-life candidate here? This guy over here, he's against war. He's going to do a better job on poverty. Yeah, he's got abortion wrong, but he's only wrong on one issue, not these others. The problem is these issues are not morally weighted equally. What would we think of a candidate that had an excellent health care plan, excellent economic forecast to help young people get into the job market, but thought it must remain legal for you to beat your wife? Would that candidate be disqualified even though he was right on all these other issues? Of course he would be. You don't get off just because, hey, I've got a good thing going here on all these other things. All issues are not equally weighted.
That is exactly what is taking place. We're looking at these other issues as if they're on the same level, which would make us, you know what that means, don't you? The dreaded one-issue voter person,
right?
Which we will respond to also, along with a slew of new arguments that are being forwarded to encourage evangelicals to vote for a pro-choice candidate. And dare I add, not just a pro-choice candidate like, yeah, okay. No, this is an aggressive pro-abortion candidate and party. And so there are a number of new ways of finessing this, nuancing this. I didn't know it needed to be reconsidered, but nevertheless, it is being done. And I fear a lot of evangelicals might be persuaded by it. So Scott Klusendorf dropping an impromptu, improving the quality of this program. Let me tell you, I know what I had prepared. You are so much better. And we are blessed by your presence. ProLifeTraining.com, ProLifeTraining.com. We will continue our chat with Scott Klusendorf next on Wretched Radio.
Houston, I think we have a few problems here.
Go ahead, Wretched One.
Besides the fact I'm wearing a cardboard helmet, Houston, you have got one of the biggest false teachers in the universe. Are you kidding? He is so rich.
How rich is he, Wretched One?
I can see his house from here.